Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Mates podcast. I am Matthew, joined with my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum,
Hey man, great to see you. So today
good to
we're
see you.
back with another edition of our Disney pods, where we're
Hmm.
reviewing all the animated Disney films. And today we've got another four. We have to be honest, we're a bunch of bottlers because both of us tried to watch one of these movies, and we were just like, it was such a drag, and yeah, I don't know, it was. Do you know what I mean? It was just such a
Wait,
task to watch
Matthew,
a film.
please tell me, did you finish it
Oh,
though?
I finished it. I finished it, but
Okay, okay.
for once,
I was questioning your commitment there, but yeah,
yeah,
our normal operating procedure when it came to Disney films was doing one every other episode, and like I looked back on our last episode was 4 weeks ago,
was a
so
month
we've
ago.
really let it slip. But today it was 3 out of 4 of them were talking animal films, and like it was in the time when they were doing like nightmarish 3D animation, and like this episode just broke me. Like it
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
was it was the worst one.
Yeah, to be fair, one of these films I absolutely love, and the others, yeah, I like. But I know what you mean. But it was definitely a drag, and it's weird
Yeah,
because
just to do a little tease, I would say I loved two, tolerated one, hated one,
okay, oh, that's
and I
interesting.
think
Well,
you'll be
yeah,
surprised.
I think so. I think you'll be surprised by mine as well. Well, but yeah, just before we kick off today's episode, shout out to everyone who's recently subscribed. We really do appreciate that. And please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on these Disney movies down below if you've seen them. We'd love to hear them. And our email is always there, moviematespodcast@gmail.com. We'll always be there to answer those. So, first film of today, Bud, is it Home of the Range, isn't it? Yeah.
It is Home on the Range.
Oh, the
Wow.
film that was the drag for me out of all of them. I mean, there's the first one on our list, and it's the last one I watched. It's certainly it's one of the first Disney films, if not the first Disney film I remember watching as a kid, and I think this is the last 2D animated one since, well, up until Princess and the Frog, isn't it?
I mean, I thought that I'd read somewhere that this was 3D animated, but it certainly
Oh,
doesn't
maybe.
look it. So I may well
I
be
might be
off on
wrong.
that. But I'm actually surprised to hear that you've seen this because I thought that would probably make you less reluctant to watch it. If
Yeah,
if you had sort of seen it before, because I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I know that you love westerns, but it's pretty much the only genre that I've completely written off. Back to the Future Part Three is pretty much the only exception for me, and
hmm,
it's barely that. It's still a sci-fi time travel
yeah.
film, but the animation I think would be kind of cool for a short form entertainment, but it's a little too flat to hold my attention for the whole time, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think you're right. I actually think, this film would probably be way better suited to a short film, as you sort of were saying there.
Yeah.
And the film is, it is quite mercifully short. I think excluding credits, it's like 1 hour 16 around that mark,
Oh,
but
the
it's
sweet,
not short
sweet
enough.
12 minutes of credits. I was
You were
thrilled.
gassed. Yeah, no, I know,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. But yeah, like this film has a very peculiar animation style. I actually do quite like it, personally, and there's some of the best voice work I think so far. Judi Dench really shows her class here in that department as the Mrs. Calloway character for me. And yeah, like it's kind of a very confusing film, isn't it? Because it's kind of a film where, if I was the creative mind behind it, I would think, how would this entertain children? Just a bunch of animals trying to get their farm back from a dude called Alameda Slim. Yeah, it doesn't sound the best, does it?
Yeah, it's. I think the biggest problem with the film is that none of the characters are likable, and you just don't end up caring about any of them. And I think you would less so even as a child. Like
Mhm.
Maggie is like full of hubris and shit ideas, and Mrs. Calloway is the person that shits on every idea and doesn't have any of her own. Like I feel like the only fundamentally likable character is Grace, I believe the third cow's name is.
Yeah, yeah.
She was the only one that I sort of warmed to.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, buddy. I think you're right, and I think despite the good voice work, I do think you're definitely spot on there, Callum, in the sense that there's not a really likable character, particularly. There's a lot of characters who are just really arrogant, and I suppose that is how they're characterized in the film. But for a kids film, I think it's fundamental that you have like a good character who's just really 100%. but this film just doesn't have that really, well, for the most part. But yeah, it still feels too long, even at 1 hour 16 for me. To be honest, I think 45 minutes
Yeah.
would be a push,
And
even to be
Matthew, you
honest.
know, we sort of said that we both. Yeah, you. Sorry, you're.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologies if I interrupt you. You've been
No,
lagging a bit for me, but
no, you're okay.
I think we both said that we had tried a couple of times to get into this film, and I would say 4 or 5 days ago was my first attempt. I would say I got less than 1 minute in before saying I can't do this. How long
Yeah,
was it for you?
must have been a good. Mine wasn't much better. I think mine was maybe 10 minutes. I had to watch it in a couple increments today, which obviously is not the best experience for me, and that's my own fault. Maybe that maybe hinders my opinion of the film, but yeah, like I didn't really. I actually really like this film. I think it's a lot better than some of the other previous films that we reviewed, but. I mean, it's got some really like stupid, dumb character decisions in here that are even inexcusable for a kids' film, in my opinion. Like honestly, but that being said, I think there's a lot of upsides here. We've talked about the animation style, the voice work, and I think the pace is reasonably good. Even though that probably is a little bit incoherent what I've said regarding the film being too long, but overall, I think despite being a drag, it's definitely not the worst film I've personally reviewed or seen in Disney so far. What about you, dude?
No, I don't think it's the worst. And if you wanted to quickly talk about probably one of the more memorable or one of the more mentionable
Yeah,
moments within the plot,
sure.
because I think a lot of it is just it's just nothingness, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
no, it
the
is. The
character
plot
of
is
Rico
certainly
the
weak.
bounty hunter,
Hmm.
is revealed to have been a villain all along, and I think it's a well done twist. But in reality, who cares? You don't see enough of him to give a shit. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't understand
exactly.
how this would appeal. Like as you said, I don't understand how this would appeal to children because there isn't enough time spent with any of the characters to get you to care about them whatsoever, and any sort of Meet the Robinsons style twist that is meant to like recontextualize all the events that have taken place in the film.
That's such a good
It just
point.
does not hit on any level.
That's such a good point, buddy. Because when you think about it, like to have that Meet the Robinson style twist, where like you perfectly described, retextualizes scenes in the film, it's impossible to do that with a film like this, where it has so many characters. Not none of them are remotely likable, really. There's too many of them, but also none of them are in it for a. There's no real main character here, in my opinion. Like one would think it would probably be Maggie, but even still, a lot of the screen time is shared by Grace, Mrs. Calloway, even Alameda Slim to an extent as well as the villain. But yeah, I think that's such a really great point you've raised in the sense that it is kind of impossible for a twist like that, although good and certainly unique. It's impossible for it to lead anywhere really remotely, given that the Rico character is in it for what 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah, I guess it's just really to change the character of Buck and say that have him question who his heroes are. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're trying to be really deep, but it's just a really like surface level poor film. Like in my
Yeah.
opinion, I know you enjoyed it, but honestly, I wish I had more to say about this film because right now it just feels like I wasted an hour and 20 minutes because
Oh,
it was
you do get films
uneventful.
like that. Yeah, you do get films like that, dude, don't you? That like it's certainly a film where I think give it a couple weeks, I just forget. It's quite a forgetful film. But that being said, there's a lot of things I like here. I actually think there it is very funny in places. I think the script is excellent, and I think that's why maybe the voice work is so good that they actually have a good script. Whereas some films, which we'll mention maybe later on, don't. But yeah, like I think it's a film where I wouldn't say it's filled with heart or any passion for the project particularly. It feels like a very much not necessarily lazy, but it's not exactly prime time Disney where it's not one I'd recommend straight away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's anything technically awful about it, but I just find it entirely unentertaining.
Dull, yeah. No, I'm pretty much the same, but they're pretty much the same. I think quality wise, great. Entertainment, not so much for me. But I
And I
suppose
would
me.
disagree
Oh, fair,
because I would say quality also low. I mean,
fair,
when you talk about
fair.
animation quality is very high. Script, westerns just don't appeal to me, so that just might be a personal preference.
Fair enough. Fair
But
enough.
character development, I think, is very low, and for me, quality would deteriorate with that. Do you have anything further on the film, Matthew?
No remarks from me. Mate, this is our shortest
No.
review in a while. How did we review
I mean,
like
I'm
Soul
glad.
for like nearly an hour, and then we spent like 10 minutes or whatever? To be fair, Soul was a much better film on this, for me anyway. But what would you rate out of 10, buddy?
Yeah, I think we have to go. I think I have to split off with the quality and entertainment.
Nice one.
Entertainment. Oh, is it what do we normally do? Is it entertainment or enjoyment? Like, what
Oh
is
well,
the
either or, either or. We'll go both. You know, entertainment slash enjoyment. What would you give
Okay, I enjoyed it. 1 out of 10, and I think that's
it?
generous. Quality, I'd give it a solid 5.
That's
I
actually
think
more
it
than I
earned a
thought you
5
were
for
going to
the
give it.
animation. I
That's
think it earned a
fair.
5 for the animation.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair. You know, for me anyway, enjoyment, probably probably sitting at maybe a 5 or a 6 or something to that degree. I think there's some good Western tunes in there. I think it has a good script, good animation, good music, but a poor plot. And that would probably lean for my quality review to be maybe around probably the same. The 5 to 6 mark. But it's certainly not the worst film. But it's not one that I don't think we'd recommend
Yeah,
straight away
it's
for any of
not
our
it's
friends.
not the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
No, it's not. It's certainly not that level for either of us.
What has been your least favorite so far? Like, Winnie the Pooh was an absolute
Probably,
stinker, but also like pretty much most of the ones from like the 1950s to the 1940s to the 1960s are also mostly in the bin.
probably for me, like I know you really like these films, but I really didn't really like. I know I thought of it. Aristocats in the bin,
Or
in
yeah,
the bin.
Aristocats for me tolerable. Obviously, the package films are the
Package,
worst
yeah, but they're like
because
their
they're not
own
even
shit.
films.
Yeah, yeah, I know. What would you say they'll film regardless of the package films? Although we haven't finished the Disney series just yet, we're getting towards the end game. So what would be your least favorite so far?
Not including the package
Not
films.
including the package films, yeah.
Ooh, can we come back to at the end of the episode? Because
Yeah,
I
I'll,
think I
I'll
need
let you.
to
I'll let
I think
you.
I need to refresh
Yeah,
myself with the
I'll,
filmography.
I'll let your brain have some time to figure that one out. But the next film, I suppose, buddy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it either Meet the Robinsons or Chicken Little? Which one is it?
It is Chicken Little.
Chicken Little. Uh, phew, this is. Oh God.
How dare you, sir?
No, is this the one you like?
This is the one I liked. I liked. I would say that
Oh man.
this is my second this is my second favorite of today. And quite honestly, I had no idea this was even a Disney film
No, me
until I looked
neither.
this
Me
up
neither, man. I
the
had the
other
exact
day.
same note. Yeah, I had the exact same remark. Again, doesn't feel like a Disney film at all. For me, and um, I have one of my most embarrassing confessions to make to you in regards to this film. I don't know if I should share it now or
Is
wait.
it that you fancy another one of the characters?
Might be. It's Matthew,
Did
yeah,
you,
not Matthew now. Just to stress that for the viewers.
young
Definitely not
Matthew,
now.
fancy the weird-looking duck woman?
Abby Mallard is a looker. I had something for her as a kid. I really liked her. Do you not get that? No, do you not see it?
Not whatsoever. But
Oh,
also, to be fair, I didn't watch this as a child, so I am watching this as an adult. So it would be weirder if I did. I think I think it's better that I don't agree with you, assuming as
yeah.
this is my first watch. And
Abby
if we want to
Mallard for
talk
me,
about
yeah.
that, this is an entire town where there are only a few people of each species. So dating must be slim pickings unless you're willing to do some cross-species shit,
I was about to say,
like
yeah. I
I
know.
don't
I
know
was
what
about
to
to
call him
say,
because his name isn't like his surname isn't
Little.
Little. It's
Yeah.
it's
Why
it's
do they
like
call him
uh
Chicken Little then? That's so
like
weird.
his dad's Mr. Cluck, but he's like,
Chicken
so
Cluck just
what
didn't
are you meant
sound
to call him?
good.
Like, if we go, oh yeah, chicken did this, chicken did that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird one. Sometimes for people, and I was like this, who like hadn't saw the movie Brave and called the character of like Meredith Brave. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of a similar thing to this. Like the guy's name's probably not Chicken Little, but I'll probably just have to refer to him as that from now on because it's sort of like
I
what
mean,
he's
like,
known as.
what do they call him throughout the film? Like, I think they
I
call
don't. I
him
think he's
Little,
named.
don't they?
I think so. I think maybe I suppose it is I suppose a play on like Little Chicken, but like I don't know because his father is called like what is it like?
It's Mr. Cluck.
Mr. Cluck or something. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, like this film kind of has like I have a certain level of hatred for the people of this town for their treatment of Chicken Little. Absolute
Yeah.
bastards.
No, I definitely agree with that. You know, like I'd sort of heard that like Chicken Little was like an unbearable little shit, but like if, in all honesty, I find him really likable. And you
Yeah,
know, I
I
think
agree.
that
Yeah.
two themes that are covered in this film that I really respected were bullying and the theme of not living up to your parents' expectations, and they aren't themes that Disney normally do well, and like they completely bottled it in Inside Out. I thought because really the solution in Inside Out is sadness should just take a day off. When like sadness is literally making a conscious choice to make all humans sad. They should
Yeah,
quit their job.
sure.
But I really liked the character of Chicken Little, and I had a sort of affinity towards the character where felt like a bit of a kindred spirit when it came to the school scenes.
Yeah, no, I love what you said there, buddy, and I think, yeah, like I think the people of the town have to take responsibility for being so gullible, even though he is telling the truth. I mean, they're the ones who just took Chicken Little's word for it at the end of the day, so they're every bit as responsible, even though he was telling the truth. And from the Chicken Little character, I actually thought he was quite charming as well. I got like Peter Parker vibes, from the first Spider-Man, the first Raimi movie when he's chasing after the bus. And there's I think this film is incredibly funny as well. There's some really great lines in here. One of my favorites is when like the PE teacher goes, "Okay, split into two teams, popular or unpopular." I was like, that is so true, so true in high
Yeah,
schools, isn't
no,
it?
that is so unbelievably accurate
Yes.
to most PE teachers. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I love
And
that. That was great.
when it came to sort of like sporting prowess, I was very surprised when Chicken Little was actually very successful in his endeavor to be on the baseball team.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that they gave him such a big win so early on. I thought the end of the film would be him proving himself to the people of the town. But I
Hmm.
suppose the point of this being early in the film was that he got to like the highest high so that he could be brought right back down again.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I was just
It's an
surprised
unusual
in the
choice.
moment that because I
Yeah.
mean for a lot of kids films that would sort of be like that would be like the end sequence where he proves himself to the town.
Hmm.
Like I think a lot of ones with like very small stakes that would be the normal third act.
Yeah.
But this film is very surprising. Where it goes narratively. Because
Oh, I think so.
it
Yeah.
never occurred me. It never occurred to me to question. I always knew the concept of the film, but I never asked myself. Why is this guy falling? So quite honestly, aliens were a big surprise.
I think so.
That massively surprised me.
No, I think you're definitely spot on there, dude, as always, because it's kind of an unusual choice, and the film sort of balances that Chicken Little character and his like positivity to like his dad's sort of negativity towards him. Like, there's things that the dad says Chicken Little. I was like, that is awful to say. To be honest, I have a point here in my notes. It's maybe a little bit harsh, but I was like, is this dude like the worst dad ever? But I did warm to him quite by the end. But yeah, I think the fact that the Chicken Little characters are like balanced with some amazing side characters. Abby Abby Mallard, we know him. I was a fan of, but my favorite character in the film is actually, I don't know what they call him. I think it's like they call him Fish Out of Water. It's just like a fish with a helmet on. I think he's absolutely brilliant. One of my favorites in recent Disney films. But yeah, I mean, like you sort of said, Bud, the film's narrative choice to have that sort of high in the middle and bring him down to earth again, I thought that was great for sure.
And this film is very weirdly referential. It sort of covers a lot
Mm.
of because I mean, the film opens with Raiders of the Lost Ark playing in the cinema, and
Yeah,
they
it
sort of
does.
make a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
quips about the movie industry and how it's not representative to the true stories they're trying to tell.
Hmm.
And another thing that it sort of included that was very bizarre to me was the references to like 2000s music culture. Because the character of Runt is like constantly singing, like, I mean, no, not necessarily this, but he's singing like the Spice Girls,
Yeah,
or he's
yeah.
singing.
If you wanna be
I
my
mean, obviously,
lover,
like,
yeah, that sort of stuff. I'll not continue it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then obviously not from the 2000s, but he's singing "I Will Survive," songs like that. So it was very bizarre to me. That
Yes.
because that usually features in like, because obviously in a 2000 film you would expect that to feature in the soundtrack, but not like the references throughout the
Yeah,
films.
yeah.
So
It's
like it
very of
just
its
feels
time, isn't
weird
it?
going back. yeah, going back in like 2021 now, I guess, and
Yeah.
just seeing that's just bizarre.
It is weird. I had the same sort of pattern of thought, buddy, because I remember watching this film when I was very young as well, and there's a lot of key scenes that stick in my mind. When he's in his bedroom after the baseball game, and he's like singing "We Are the Champions." It's such an obviously this film, that's a different era of time completely, but even the references it makes, like you said, music wise and just culture wise as well. It's very of its time. They've got like flip phones, they're reading magazines, Cosmopolitan, or this universe's version of that. It's kind of a blast from the past, kind of. It makes me feel really old. Like, obviously our generation was a little bit after like flip phones, but I still remember my first phone was a flip phone as well. So it kind of made me feel quite old watching this back. So it was strange.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I got there at the touchscreen era,
Ah, I love
but
it, love it.
I may have just got a phone later than you, to be fair. But the audience is eventually clued into the fact that Chicken Little has been telling the truth this entire time,
Yeah.
and then we see that there's actually an alien invasion, or what Chicken Little believes to be an alien invasion, sort of on the cusp of occurring, and he reveals once again to the town that the sky is falling, aliens are here, and once again the town doesn't believe him, and Chicken Little, sort of just it's so dumb his name, but he just sort of sits there pensively thinking like, oh, I'm an idiot, and surely you would go past the point of feeling sorry for yourself and just get pissed at everyone who doesn't believe you, because his dad has embarrassed him 2 times now, and not only embarrassed but like it humiliated him and like ruined his social standing. So I would have
Yeah.
just gotten pissed.
Yeah, that's it. Like, Chicken Little is very clearly a talented individual. He's making like trousers out of like paper, sort of paper designs and stuff, and he's like rocketing up to the classroom with a glass fizzy bottle on his back. He's clearly a very honest and smart guy, and yet he just gets humiliated. And I felt really bad for him as the film goes on, and that is definitely, of course, it's intentional. But I think I don't know, the dad character. I think although I did warm to him slightly by the end, I think they definitely push it too far in his humiliation. Like, it is borderline awful. Like, it is so bad at points. And but yeah, like the alien spaceship scene is, I think, that whole like plot where it turns out the sky isn't really falling, it's just the spaceship and stuff. Actually, that was really smart. And the fact that the aliens aren't as terrifying as they seem by the end, they're actually just like fluffy little dolls, so to speak. I don't know how to describe them, but like they're actually good people. They're just normal people. Just they've misinterpreted the situation. Their child has been captured or whatever. But I thought that was really really smart by the film as well. And it's for alien invasions in films is something that's like always risky, isn't it? Like, it's so overdone to death, but this film did it fresh, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a Captain Marvel Skrull twist,
Yeah,
where it
yeah, it
just turns
is.
out
Yeah,
they were fighting on the wrong side. But not only is it surprising, narratively, I think the quality to me was completely surprising. I expected
yeah,
myself to have to massively distract myself throughout this film,
yeah.
to avoid getting completely bored. But I found this film genuinely entertaining.
I'm the same, buddy. I feel quite bad that I've opened it quite negatively. There's things about this film I'm not too keen on. I've talked about the dad character and how they've sort of maybe pushed that too far. And there's scene. I think the animation's not fantastic. Obviously, I think this is the first 3D one, or maybe one of the first 3D ones. But I think the redeeming factor of this film, sort of in contrast with Home in the Range, is perhaps this film has a lot more charm behind it. And the final scene where it's like there's like a really muscular Chicken Little actor, whereas like it's him
Yeah.
in a film and his romance with like Abby Mallard. I think that was absolutely brilliant. And I don't know, I find scenes like that, like I've talked before about this film and how it's quite funny. Like, I think the film is generally quite funny, and this is, I think it works for an old audience, just as well as it does with children.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on how it's an improvement over Home on the Range, because, whether you have an opinion as you do, where you actively dislike Chicken Little's dad, or whether you have the opinion that you actually like Chicken Little, the fact is that it's got you to form an opinion. So they've
That's
done
it.
enough building
That's it,
to
bud.
get you to care about the
Absolutely.
characters enough to like or dislike
I think
them.
that's such a
So
good
yeah,
point.
I wasn't a big fan of the character of Chicken Little's dad either, but that sort of just added to the fact that I appreciated the construction of the film.
Yeah,
So,
it's a really good
Matthew, do
point.
you have anything further to say on
Nothing
Chicken
for me,
Little?
buddy. If there's nothing for me, I'd love to hear your rating for this one.
So I had a really great time with this film. I was massively surprised, not only narratively but quality wise. I was massively entertained, so I would give the film an 8 out of 10.
Oh, that's really great to hear, man. It surprises me as well that you liked it, so I'm
So
glad to
dumb
hear.
though.
It's a
Like
really
we've talked
stupid
about some
film.
like serious critical hits, and I've just been like, piece
Chicken
of
Little.
shit, 4 of 10.
But yeah, for me, I think this film is very self-aware, very charming. There's characters in here I think are very overly cliche, but that's probably intentional, so I can't be too harsh in that. It doesn't feel like a Disney film for me, which is strange, given I mentioned that it has charm. But yeah, for me, I'd probably give it. I'll go an 8 as well. But I was harsh on it at the start, but your opinion has warmed me up to it, so I'll give it an 8 as well. I'll give it an 8 as well. Now, the next film we're going to be talking about today is Meet the Robinsons.
Indeed,
Nice
yes.
one. And
So this is the
this is a
film
good
that
one.
I'd seen many times as a child. You know, I may have procured a copy of it that was not necessarily released by Disney. As a child, one of our friends may have hooked me up with that. I'll tell you later. But this film is one that I watched constantly as a child, so I had massive nostalgia for it. It's one of the rare few that we've talked about where I've had that opinion, or
Yeah.
that experience, because Disney films, I've just for some reason I think because I sort of lived, you know, we sort of lived in the tail end era of the VHS, so getting your hands on a copy of a film was a bit more difficult back in the day. So
Yeah.
when it came to Disney films that were from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that was pretty much out of the question.
Hmm.
To pick up, I'd maybe
Yeah.
seen Robin Hood as a child, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, that kind of thing. But when it came to Lion King, the first time I watched that was a few months ago.
Yeah.
So this film is one of the rare few that I actually have a childhood basis for. Are you of the same experience?
I actually strangely didn't watch this film until I was maybe in my teenage years, but I don't have a huge amount of nostalgia for it. But it's one of those films where I can sort of build immediately a love and connection with it just in the first viewing. This is one of my favorites so far. To be honest with you, mate. I think you're the same. You love this film, do you?
Yeah, Hunchback of Notre Dame right now is probably still number one for me, but I'd say this is hovering around the top five, definitely.
Nice
And
one.
I'm surprised though that you did enjoy the film, because I sort of got the sense that this one might be just for children and old fans. I didn't think that you could watch it in your teenage years and still appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, and it's one of those films where I think it's got a very a different story to other Disney films, and it's not again. I've said this phrase to death, but it doesn't feel like a Disney film to me at all. And maybe because Disney's been stereotyped to be like we've talked about it, the house of ideas and stuff like that. But I think this is just evidence of what it can do when it does things right. I mean, this film is. I think it's one of the best animated films in a while that I've certainly seen. And the animation, it's so 1950s, but it's so good. It's so good. It even makes you feel bad for a villain, which is always good. And I mean, yeah, great message in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you want to sort of go into the narrative, we meet the character of Lewis, who's been abandoned at the orphanage by his mom.
Hmm.
And he's gone through countless interviews, well, not countless, 124 at the beginning of the film, of interviews, to get a couple to adopt him.
Yeah,
And quite honestly, when you're looking to adopt like a slightly older child like him, he's 12 years old, you would think that you would appreciate like an inquisitive inventor. The Harringtons that we see, in the beginning of the film, the couple where the dad has an allergic reaction to peanut butter.
yeah.
That is fair enough. That's a unique exception. But how has no one else appreciated him over 100 interviews?
Yeah, like this kid is. I think he's definitely deserving of familial love, to be honest, because he tries hard, he works hard. He's clearly a very talented kid, a very talented individual. I mean, we even see like for that school fair, the project where it's like the memory machine. Like it would have worked, and it does work by the end of the film if it wasn't for the little hat device. But yeah, like it's one of those things where yeah, it doesn't make you feel bad for the character. Oh, what's his name again? Oh no,
Which character?
The kid, the main character in the film, what with blonde hair, what's his name?
Lewis.
Lewis. That's it. Yeah, like it's sort of a different level of sympathy when compared to Chicken Little, but here it's much more it's another story about like foster families, which you don't see often in animated films. Maybe it's more popular these days, Shazam, for example. But yeah, I think here
Yeah.
that character is one of the best protagonists so far, and
Yeah.
it's actually it's so refreshing, dude, that you have a human character for a change.
I was just about to say, like,
Yeah,
I think that helps the case massively.
it does. It
You know,
does.
to add sympathy, because if it was that Chicken Little was like an orphan, or a child given up for adoption, I really don't think it would have had the same appeal as the character of Lewis.
Hmm.
And this film is obviously a time travel genre film, and the crux of it is that Wilbur Robinson has come back from the past, and that Lewis is his dad secretly, and that is sort of a massive twist presented in the film. But
Hmm.
watching it back now, it is fairly apparent that Wilbur is Lewis's son. With the way that Wilbur looks at him with such admiration, and the suspicious
Yeah.
sort of attitude of the family
Yeah.
towards Lewis. Do you think you can see that as well?
I think so, dude. I think so. And for me, that's for me personally, like that's not the primary, um, you know, twist for me in the film.
Yeah,
For me, I actually think the twist that Goob, that's such a funny name. Goob is like the villain of the piece is actually his old roommate from the house from the foster house. So I thought that was really well done. And the twist that he is his dad is all, of course, you're watching it back now, and when I first watched it when I was 13 or whatever, it was quite noticeable. But that being said, I think if I was a kid and watched this, it would probably shock me, to be honest with you. But that being said, the twists in this film are generally great, especially the Goob one. I
yeah,
loved it.
yeah. I think even going back to myself as a child, I probably did, sort of pick up on that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I don't think that they're trying to keep, that reveal a secret as much as they are, that the bowler hat guy is Goob, as you said. And I think it is more obvious on this watch, by how sympathetic the bowler hat guy is to his younger self in the scene where he travels to the orphanage looking for Lewis.
Yeah.
And I think without that scene, that they shared the twist would blow even adults' minds. I think just introducing the idea of having Goob and the fact that he bottled the catch, I think that would have been enough.
Hmm.
I don't think that he needed the moment where he says to Goob, like, "Oh, you need to resent Lewis. You need to hold on to that rage." I feel like without that scene, the narrative is better served.
I think so. I think you've smashed it there, buddy, to be honest with you. And the bowler hat guy is generally one of my favorite characters so far that we've reviewed in recent episodes. I think he's absolutely hilarious. And as I said, the Goob twist being the bowler hat guy, it's generally fantastic. And I think that's really added to it with the editing of the film. You don't have scenes that are so pivotal like that to create that narrative layer. It's awesome. And yeah, for me, I think it kind of does the Back to the Future 2 scenario where it shows you the alternate reality where the bowler hat kind of scenario, and that device ruling the world and stuff. And in many respects, it really is animated Back to the Future. The more and more I think about it, except for maybe that villain
Yeah,
twist. But I think that we mentioned this in our Back to the Future podcast. Like we mentioned that there's a lack of a villain. Like in that sense, I suppose like the villain is Biff, but even still, like it's not like a continuous consistent character. It's a young Biff, old Biff, Kingpin Biff, you know what I mean? But here it's kind of refreshing to have that sort of, take on, Back to the Future if there was like an evil Doc Brown kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like with the
yeah,
alternate,
and
with
so
the other time travel element
and
there.
I think I mentioned it on that podcast that Disney itself was pitched Back to the Future, and they rejected it, and it
Mm,
went over to Universal, but
yeah.
they rejected it because of the sort of mother son incest stuff.
Yeah.
But then they do that themselves in this film,
Yeah, they do, don't they?
where Lewis refers to his future wife as mum. Matthew, which do you find worse? Marty McFly's mum kissing him, or Lewis considering his future wife as a mother figure?
Both of them are
I think
bad,
there is
but
a correct answer.
I think I think the fact that there was actually like physical contact involved in Back to the Future is slightly worse, but in that sense, Marty McFly is aware of it and he actively tries to stop it, whereas here Lewis is unaware, so it's kind of more innocent. But I'd probably say Back to the
Yeah,
Future is worse. I think.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like Lewis is just a disturbing thing to think about.
Yeah, it
But you
is,
know,
isn't
the Marty McFly one is like a
it?
disgusting thing to watch and something
Yeah,
that
no,
would
it is.
physically scar you.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And like, I think, yeah, I think like the film has a really great message and stuff. And I've sort of made it mine actually. I've said it before that it is like an animated Back to the Future too. But you know, it's a film that gets you thinking. And like you said, you know, I think the Lewis character is a really great protagonist here, and it's although it has like some very cliched things that are ripped off from certain movies, and it's just such a really funny, like just really unusual movie. I mean, there's like dancing, singing frogs. There's a squid butler. I mean, there's a T-Rex that's mind controlled. I mean, it's just when I say this, and you know, if people haven't seen this film, like if I described it to someone who hadn't seen it, they'd think, "Oh, that sounds shit." You know, it sounds really bad, but it's on paper, it sounds completely different to what it actually is in real life. So I mean, props to that. You know, it's really great.
And it's one of the first, you know, obviously this being a kids' film, you would
Mhm.
sort of excuse a bit of a messy explanation of time travel, but it's actually fairly consistent.
Mhm.
You know, they establish within the first scene that is then repeated later on in the film that you know that these scenes, sorry, that these events were destined to happen because you know the film opens with Lewis's mum leaving him on the step of the orphanage, and you hear the noise of someone scampering away, and then that's later revealed to be Lewis having come from the future back to that moment.
Yeah,
So that sort of tells that you know in the series of events, you know the time travel had to happen to allow other events to happen. So
yeah.
Wilbur Robinson coming from the future
It
to
was destiny kind of
Lewis's
thing.
present,
Yeah,
yeah, that had to
inevitable.
happen,
Yeah,
you know, for him to be comfortable to
it's a very
move
good
on to be
explanation.
part of this new family. So you know the film doesn't actually you know outright say that, but you know if you look into it at all, it fully holds up. You know whenever you
Yeah,
think
I love
about it,
that.
and you
Yeah,
know it's just embarrassing that like a kids film does that better than like Tenet, Avengers Endgame, you
yeah.
know, pretty much
Mhm.
every other you know time travel film. I would say Back to the Future 2 and 3 do it well, but the first Back to the Future is a bit messy.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's kind of like a simple fix for any time travel complications as well. And I actually really thought it was great to be honest with you, buddy. That's really added. It sort of makes the twists better as well, in my opinion. But um, I've got no other remarks for this film, buddy. Just good ones, to be honest, mate. Anything from yourself?
Just a few brief things
Go for it.
about the bowler hat guy. If he was so set on changing the timeline anyway, I don't really know why his priority wasn't changing his past for the better.
That's what I
Instead,
was
you know,
thinking. Yeah.
changing Lewis's future for the worse.
Hmm.
You know, I
Yeah.
would feel like, you know, he could do both quite easily.
Hmm.
You know, just convince his younger self that
Wake up.
Lewis had still wronged him. And you
Yeah.
know, the character of Bowler Hat Guy is petty, but he's not wrong. Like it is Lewis's fault. Like Lewis is the villain. You know, he has ruined ruined Goob's life up to that moment.
Yeah. That's true. It's
But
really
you
it
know,
is
really,
true. Yeah.
I think that Lewis's greatest wrongdoing, well, Lewis of the now defunct timeline where him and Goob were enemies. But that's now been amended. You know, I feel that the greatest wrongdoing that he had was abandoning Goob. Like, you know, when he left the orphanage, clearly they didn't stay in touch. You know, he was having,
Yeah.
you know,
It's a really
massive
good point, actually.
successes.
It's a
He
good point.
invented, the greatest things of all time, and it just seems to have left
He
Goob in the
didn't invite
dirt.
him into the family, so to speak, either.
Yeah, you know, and I feel like, you know, if Goob had been as unsuccessful as Lewis, you know, with finding a new family, Lewis would have recognized that and,
Yeah, that's such a good point,
taken him in.
actually. Yeah, that's a really good point, buddy. Would you like to see a sequel to this film? Out of curiosity.
I would love to, and you know, I read a little bit about the fact that they were going to do one, you know,
Oh,
a
really?
direct to video one with Disney Toon Studios, but it was binned off in favor of doing spin off films like you know like The Lion King 1.5, shit like that.
Yeah.
You know, instead of direct sequels, spin offs and
Hmm.
original content,
Original
yeah, for
content.
sure.
Yeah,
You know, like
like that exists.
have you heard of any like the Disney Toon movies? Like there's like
Tarzan
Atlantis
and
2,
Jane. Is that
Milo,
one?
like Tarzan and Jin, I think it is one, yeah. And like it's just utter they're all utter shite. Like
Yeah.
they sound awful. Like
Yeah.
to be fair, you know, I've heard some good things about the Aladdin follow-ups and you know, so I've heard some things about the Lion King sequels, but to Milo turn. and it's just like 3 20-minute episodes like from a TV series. Like
Mhm.
that was like the standard of their filmmaking.
Yeah.
I was gonna have us cover those films, but I'm questioning it a little bit, because I'm like, do
Maybe
they
not.
even count as films? Like
Yeah.
half of them are literally like, the first 3 episodes of of a TV series slapped together, to make a film. Like, kind of like with Star Wars: The Clone Wars,
Hmm.
the TV show. You know how they sort of took a few episodes from that, and then that was turned into an animated film in its own right.
Hmm.
But it's not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Like
I know
it's
it.
kind of just an embarrassing attempt to make more money.
That's always the risk with direct-to-video films, especially in animated scenarios, because it's clear less effort is going to go into them because just the budget isn't there perhaps, and the team isn't there. They're focused on other things. So if they were going to do a sequel for this film, it better be I actually like to see a live action rendition of this, but then it definitely would be more like Back to the Future, I suppose. But I don't know. I think this really has potential. This universe has massive potential for like a sequel and stuff. It's crazy that there hasn't been one for me anyway.
Yeah, I think a sequel needs to happen. If they tried to make it live action, I think I would despise it, especially if they tried to commit to doing just the same film over again with the same twists. Because then, I feel like they're adding
Yeah, that's
nothing
true.
to it.
Yeah.
Even with like the films that they've been doing, like The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, where they've been bulking them out to like near 2 hours in live action.
Hmm.
That doesn't like change the beginning, middle, or end. It's just a couple of extended sequences, maybe an extra song or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's nothing of value or substance. So it's really just a cash grab.
Yeah.
But at the end of the film, we're introduced to the Robinsons that we've been seeing throughout the entire film, Lucille and Bud. And I don't know how, but for some reason, I convinced myself fully that Lucille was his real mother, and that was the end reveal, not that she was the one to adopt him in the future. Like,
Yeah.
I was 100%
That's
convinced,
so weird.
because we never see the face of his real mother, but I was 100% convinced. Like, my brother told me otherwise like a few weeks ago when he watched it, and I was dead set, and I
Yeah.
was
It's
I was
yeah.
aggressive. I was like, "You're wrong,"
Yeah. It's funny how your brain does that,
and
isn't
now
it?
I
Like,
look like a fool.
it's funny how your brain does that sometimes. Like, it creates like alternate realities, especially in movie sense when you watched it as a kid. Like, I'm sort of glad they didn't really reveal the mother, because it's kind of defunct in the film anyway. Like, it kind of doesn't really remain important. Like, what is important is the family that he has now, so to speak. Um, but yeah, no,
Mhm.
it is funny how your brain sort of creates those visions in your head of what happened otherwise. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Agree with you.
I mean, to be fair, like it's people might say it's like the Mandela effect, where you convince yourself something else happened. It's not exactly that. It's more that I just saw the film and misunderstood it. Like
Yeah.
I recognized that
Hmm.
the whole time I was just misunderstanding it. But really, I mean, I feel like it's open ended, that hypothetically could be his
I
mother.
suppose
You know,
so. I
it, it,
suppose
it
so. Yeah,
doesn't. I
it's
mean,
not a realm of
that's a stupid
possibility.
thing to say, but it doesn't objectively say she isn't.
Yeah.
But it is a bit dumb.
Yeah.
So Matthew, if you don't have anything further on the film, what would be your rating of it?
It's got to be a 10. Yeah, it's got to be a 10. I absolutely love this film.
Really?
Animation. Oh yeah,
Oh
I
wow.
absolutely love it. Yeah, the bullet hat guy
Okay.
slash Scoob character, big fan, big fan, and yeah, this film's just so good, so well edited, so funny. What's not to like? What about you, man?
Yeah, I do think it needs to be credited higher than Chicken Little, at least a little bit. But I do think it loses a bit of its pacing in the middle around like the T-Rex sequence. I had a bit of like pacing issues, I thought. But I think the reveals are great. It's a much higher standard than I expected Disney these days, because
Hmm.
we've been trudging through some absolute shite. But this
True.
film I think is very high standard. Has a great twist. I would say the other twist is a bit weak, a bit apparent, but the Goob twist, I think, without knowing, is still mind blowing. So I think I would give the film a 9 out of 10.
That's brilliant, mate. I think it's definitely one of the better ones. It's definitely one of the best ones we reviewed today, if not the best. So, but yeah, for sure. The last film we're going to move on to today is Bolt. Now, this was I have to confess, this was one of my favorites as a kid. As one of my two favorite things, dogs and superpowers. So I was really hoping for good things, and the opening TV show within a movie scene, that whole scenario, it sort of seems like a really interesting plot where this movie could go down, and it seems like much better than what we actually got, in my in my opinion. This movie is not as good as I
Yeah,
remember it being.
No, I'm very much of the same opinion that they like present a much better film than they deliver.
Yeah.
Obviously, well, it's a TV show, but a much more appealing narrative than the one that they end up giving
Oh
us.
yeah, big time,
Uh,
big time.
and I think that when it comes to this film, like the 3D animation of this film is sort of like night and day between even this and Meet the Robinsons. Like Meet the Robinsons, I think is great in every single regard, except the animation is a little weak. Like I think it's nearly there, and then I think here it reaches where it needs to be.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I agree with you that I think it's a fun reveal that everything special about Bolt is from the TV show that he's a part of. But I agree with you. I think presenting a better project than the one that they give us is a mistake.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I was kind of hoping that the styrofoam that he believes is his kryptonite, so to speak, that weakens him, actually was the case. I was still holding out,
Hmm.
but by the end, he would reclaim his abilities.
Yeah,
But no, it's just I suppose that is the message of the film. Like, it doesn't matter about that, like his powers, because he's just a good dog, like he's a good character. But I was so gutted even as a kid. It kind of reminds me of when I thought like WWE was fake. I was like, what? No, like it's I don't know.
yeah,
I was absolutely gutted that that wasn't the actual plot of the film. It was just, oh man, you know what I mean?
yeah. Because it goes from like sort of a super pets to like aristocats, with
Yeah,
like
yeah,
mislaid
literally.
animals meeting friends along the way.
Yeah, I
And I
know,
think that
man. I
this
know.
kind of narrative is more original, but it's less interesting. And when you're making a kids film, it seems a lot less appealing to have like a road trip than just like a straight up action superhero movie. I mean, have we had a superhero Disney film as of yet? Other than
Big
Big
Hero
Hero
6.
6?
Big Hero 6.
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
as in before Bolt, like up to this point, had we seen superpowers before?
Not really. I mean, Pixar had The Incredibles, of course, but nothing
Yeah,
like Disney wise, no.
no. So I think it wouldn't have been. I think they needed to step out of their comfort zone this time. Really, I think they were making 21st century Aristocats when they could have made, like DC Super Pets
I
almost.
agree, yeah, for sure, dude, for sure. And, you know, watching this now, it kind of blew my mind that this film, we've talked about voice actors in today's episode, Judi Dench in Home on the Range and stuff. This film has
Yeah,
John Travolta as the
John
character of
Travolta.
Bolt and Miley Cyrus as Petty. I was
Yeah,
like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like,
yeah.
that is nuts. It does not sound like John Travolta whatsoever. I was absolutely mad.
Yeah, and I think that's a positive that
Yeah, literally.
I think he is able to convince us to not just think of John Travolta. But I think the casting of Miley Cyrus is actually smart,
I think
because
so. Was this
it's
in
kind of
the
like
Hannah Montana days, was
satirizing,
it?
the sort of like childhood actor
Yeah,
kind of trope,
that's a good point.
because she
Yeah.
was one herself. I think it was around the Hannah Montana days because this was 2007 or something.
Yeah, around that, I think it was like, yeah, 2007 or 2009 or something. Yeah, it was around that mark, wasn't it? So yeah, it was prime Hannah Montana. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think
like every human in this
what
is just a terrible person who treats animals in a disgusting manner.
yeah, like you gotta feel bad. Even we've talked about we prefer the human led films because they're more relatable. You gotta feel sympathy for some of these animals in here, like you said, the human characters, disgusting. For apart from Penny, I suppose Penny's quite nice, but
Eh,
but yeah, like God, some of the scenes are generally like borderline heartbreaking as well. It's awful, and you kind of give it. In this film, I kind of get a lot of different vibes from certain characters that are very similar to other films. I got massive Jesse Toy Story vibes from Mittens here. It's real for me. Like that was like that, and I think from the Mittens perspective, that didn't really make sense. From the perspective of the Mittens character, she's quite a cliche character, I think, but it sort of does, it definitely gets bogged down in that middle road trip section, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, I think the alley cat, sort of character is quite cliche, but I think one this unlikable isn't, sort of Disney standard. I
Yeah,
don't think that
yeah,
it seemed quite characteristic of like like Radigan in in Basil the Great Mouse Detective rather than of one of the main heroes of the film.
yeah,
It
that's
just didn't
true.
seem like they did enough to sort of like recover her morality.
Yeah,
Obviously she befriends Bolt, and they sort of look out for each other. But there's no like amends or reparations made to the people that she screwed over for years, probably.
yeah, that's a good point.
And I sort of mentioned that the characters are not like the human characters are not great, and their treatment of the animals is not particularly right. You know, they're obviously dedicated to maintaining the illusion of the TV show, but I really don't see how a walk around the park, sort of betrays that. You know, because I mean,
Yeah.
they say that the studio is his home, and he seems to have literally never seen a place that isn't a soundstage. So I really don't think that's
I'm
an
amazed that's
exaggeration.
true. I'm amazed that's true. Like,
I know.
it must be a bit confused, all these, like, microphone booms and, like, the cameras. Like, what? Like, he must, like, surely that dog has, like, accidentally wandered off before. Surely it's bound to have happened.
I
Like,
don't
I
know.
do not
I
believe it.
guess it's like a Truman Show sort of situation
Yeah,
where
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, classic.
you're told what life is, and you understand life through what they've told you life is.
Yeah,
So I
that's a good
I
point,
suppose
actually.
he
That's a good
sees
point.
cameras and just thinks that that's normal operating procedure.
Yeah.
But the biggest surprise of the film, I think, is that because they don't have animal wranglers like about the entire time. So I'm just surprised like Bolt hasn't like clawed the face out off of like the green-eyed man.
Yeah, yeah, literally, like, yeah. The dog hasn't actually, like, sent someone to hospital or something, given that he realizes it, or he thinks it's real. But it's an interesting metaphor for, like, like, I've sort of likened it to how when I found out, like, WWEs and stuff wasn't real, and I wasn't, like, a huge WWE fan by any means, so it didn't really mean that much. But even still, it kind of gets you thinking, like, when the realization that Bolt has that he's just a normal dog, like, superpowers don't exist, it's all just Truman Show-esque reality, or in reality, an acting set. It kind of got me thinking, like, it is sort of like, when you're a kid, you have all that innocence that you think, oh, maybe, Santa exists or the Tooth Fairy exists. And I kind of realized, like, I don't know. It's funny how, like, kids build up that idea in their mind that these certain, like, supernatural, supernatural traditions exist, but they don't. It kind of got me a little bit, like, not sad, but, like, a little bit disappointed. Like, the magic of it all, it's kind of non-existent, isn't it?
Did you return to your childhood and just think quite pensively about it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the ending of the film is heartwarming because, in that sense, the character of Bolt does have to come somewhat of a superhero, by saving Penny and stuff, and I think that is a really great message that, those trivial things like that, they don't matter. But no, I think I thought it was an interesting thing. Like, I didn't necessarily feel sad about it. It's just one of those things I thought, oh, that's interesting. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
So, following what I would consider personally quite a well executed travel montage, I agree with you. I think it maybe bogged down the pacing, but the actual execution, of the distance traveled across the entire country, I think was well handled. Following that, Bolt returns to the studio, which he's called home all his life, and there's a moment of apparent betrayal, where Penny has sort of welcomed this new dog to playing the character of Bolt on the TV show.
Yeah.
And Bolt oversees this, and I would have to imagine as a child that absolutely broke my heart.
Oh,
But as
you'd
an
think so,
adult,
yeah.
I felt nothing.
Oh,
I felt
nothing. He's a
nothing.
stone cold killer, this man. But yeah, like, yeah, I know what you mean. Especially because, this is one of the, I think it's like the second or third time I've seen this film. That it didn't really hit me as much as it did back then. But even now, I was like, oh god, imagine your Bolt. You'd be gutted. You'd be absolutely gutted. But it's weird. We've talked about cinema sins doing everything wrong with. I'm pretty sure they did an everything wrong with Bolt as well recently, if I'm not mistaken. They did something like that.
I'm not sure.
I think so. Let me have a
I
look.
don't think we can claim that one because that's at least before us.
No, they didn't do it recently. But yeah, we can't claim that one, I'm afraid, for copyright. Not that we ever have done that, of course.
No, the
we haven't.
fugitive one, I am genuinely like that was weird.
That was
Like
strange.
obviously nothing to do with us, but it was weird.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I know. It was strange.
Because like no one talks about the fugitive.
Yeah,
Like no one.
literally
Like
no one talks
I
about
just
it.
did it because I heard like because I was just like, wow, Harrison Ford can be a grumpy prick. Let's watch one of his movies.
Yeah.
And I think we'd sort of been riding the high of like having watched the Indiana Jones films and the Blade Runner films.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see more of Harrison Ford. But
that was so weird.
That was just weird.
That was weird. That was strange. But yeah. Any more remarks from you, bud?
Just one final thing on sort of the ending of the film. You know, it's obviously very climactic. You know, it's surprising. I didn't think that it fit tonally within the film. You know, it's very
No, it didn't.
melodramatic.
Yeah. Hmm.
And you know, it's once again Disney doing a fire. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
half of their films so far have featured like a fire in the forest whilst being pursued by a large animal. You know, and I felt like just a fire again. Like, come on,
Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah,
Like, you can
I
do
know.
better.
Yeah, I know. Like it's a very cliche, isn't it? Like if they need the filmmakers need an action scene, they're like, yeah, just chuck it in a fire. It always does the trick. You know, even The Incredibles has a fire scene, I think, doesn't it? With like him and Frozone, in like a burning building, even though that's not Disney. But yeah, got me thinking when you
Yeah,
mentioned The Incredibles earlier.
I feel like, you know, in the style of like Dumbo, where, you know, he needed to believe that he could fly. You know, if Bolt had, you know, as you said, you know, convinced himself so much that he was super, that he became super. If that was the finale, I think it would have been much more fitting.
Yeah, would have been really funny though. I think I don't know. I think if that would have happened, I think I would have been really cynical of it. I think I would have absolutely hated that. I'm like, what?
He
But yeah, it
tries
would have
to
been more
fly for
fitting.
the first time and gets burned in the fire.
Burned to a stake. Oh, God, poor Bolt. But any other remarks from me, buddy?
No, nothing else from me, Matthew.
Cool. I'd love to hear your rating, pal.
So I do think that this film is one of the better of today. I don't know. I would pitch it around Chicken Little. You know, I think it's around the same quality. Obviously, I think the animation is superior, but the narrative, I didn't find any of the characters as likable as I did with Chicken Little, and nowhere near as likable as I did with Meet the Robinsons.
Hmm.
So I would probably pitch this film around a 7.
Yeah.
Uh, that might be generous. I don't know.
Mine's sitting around the
I
same.
expected it to like piss me off and be a bit more cringy than it actually is. So I think a 7 is probably roughly accurate.
Yeah. No, I think I'm sitting around the same, to be honest with you, Callum. Like, I think, you know, like we sort of mentioned towards the start, you know, the actual TV plot of the TV show in the movie is a lot better than what we actually got. But that being said, there's nothing really horrifically bad about this one. I think if I showed this to, you know, my kid, not that I have a kid now, but the future people know I'm not a dad, but like the future hypothetical kid in the future, no, I think they'd like it. But yeah, like I think the voice works great. Interesting twists and turns in there. 7.5 for me, just around that mark. Nothing spectacular, but not too bad. Just before we wrap up today's episode, I suppose we should move into a little segment we like to call future episode chat, where we're going to talk to you about future episodes. Coincidentally enough, so Callum, what's going to be coming up in the next week?
So coming up soon will be the Cornetto trilogy, which is of course the Edgar Wright directed Simon Pegg and Nick Frost series. You know, featuring Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End. And you know, I think we've both seen all 3 of those. 2 out of 3 we enjoy.
Yeah,
The third one
literally.
might be a bit more in question. Listen to find out which one
Yeah,
that is. It's
exactly.
probably
Yeah,
quite apparent.
yeah.
But other than that film, next week we'll also be talking about Freaky as an overdue review, the Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton horror film from Blumhouse. I'm looking forward to doing that. You're a big
Absolutely,
Vince Vaughn fan, and I want to
absolutely.
see whether Catherine Newton
Catherine
can
Newton's any
redeem
good?
herself from Detective Pikachu and make me
Yeah,
excited
yeah,
for her as
yeah.
Cassie Lang.
Literally.
You know, in Ant-Man Quantumania,
Hmm.
Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Hmm.
So and then on Friday, you know, we're seeing the premiere of WandaVision. You know, the first 2 episodes of that series will be out on Disney Plus on Friday. So me and Matthew will be discussing that. So that's all that we're doing next week, I
Yeah, I
believe.
think so, but I think so. Yeah, so it's going to be a good episode. Going to be a good week for episodes, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy today's episode. Thanks very much for your time as well, Callum. Really appreciate that. I hope you guys are all
Matthew,
safe and
just to
well.
get
Oh yeah,
a quick consensus
go for it.
on our favorite and least favorite Disney film so far.
Oh yes, I remember this. I remember this. So where's your head at, buddy?
Uh,
Favorite and least favorite? Go for it.
if we want to go favorite first, I'll share mine and you can share yours. I did mention it earlier, but it still remains The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's the only one
Oh,
that, you
good
know, since
shout.
having rewatched it recently, you know, I've gone back and listened to the soundtrack. Hellfire is absolute banger.
Absolute
You know,
banger. Yeah, yeah, for
it's
sure.
obviously the villain song and it's horrific, but you know, the actual lyrically and you know, orchestrally fantastic. You know, I think that
Unreal. Yeah,
the
yeah,
character of Quasimodo is the most sympathetic character that Disney have brought to screen.
yeah.
What would be your favorite?
I'm gonna have a wee look at the filmography that we've reviewed up to this point, buddy, and I'm having a wee look here. It's definitely not any of the early ones, if I'm honest. You know, the package films
No.
are not getting anywhere close. Let's have a little look here. Of course, you've got some great ones.
I honestly think like the earliest of their films that I actually enjoyed was Cinderella, which wasn't until 1950.
Yeah, Cinderella was really good. Cinderella was really good. I think if I were to go for my favorite, man, I think, you know, for me, I'm a big romance fan, so it's gonna have to be a film with a good romance. And I think for me, Pocahontas is up there. It's one of my
No.
favorites. I know, I know. I thought you'd have that reaction.
But like
I'd
the lead male is like, there to colonize
yeah,
the
I
country.
know, but I think for me, it's got to be. Oh man, it's got to be Lilo and Stitch or Emperor's New Groove. It's got to be one of those two.
Okay.
One of those
Yeah,
two. Least
those are two
favorite.
admirable choices, I think. When it
Least
comes to
favorite.
least favorite, I am struggling on this because so many of them are like average or terrible.
Hmm.
But I feel like it's almost unfair to like target the package films because they were like produced in haste like during the Second World War.
Hmm.
So they didn't have like good animators or story writers on hand.
Yeah.
So I think targeting them would maybe be a bit unfair, at least at the moment. But
Hmm.
I did genuinely despise the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Like it was actually painful to watch. Like I had to
That's fair.
I had
Yeah.
to force myself to watch it. It was awful.
Yeah.
And like Home on the Range is up there. I'll be honest. Like it was painful, but actually now looking at it, Fantasia, because I don't
Oh
even count
yes.
that as a film. Like
Yeah.
it's just an arrogant display with like okay music. Like there are one or two pieces that are genuinely fantastic pieces of classical music, and I
Hmm.
think Fantasia 2000 actually is a bit better. But when it comes to the old Fantasia, like the
And the
animation in the
Banff.
sequence of like the Sorcerer's Apprentice is quite impressive for the time, but the rest of it is just utter shite.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's fair. I think my least favorite one is definitely Aristocats, or one of the
I mean,
Rescuers
you didn't
films.
even
I know
watch
you
all
like
of
the
Fantasia,
Rescuers
to be
films.
fair. Like, how
Uh,
much of Fantasia did you actually get through?
not all of it. It's
Like, it
definitely
was
the
it
right
was
answer.
2 hours long, and I watched all of it.
God, feel bad for you. Well, to be fair, the next Disney episode, I've got the four films here. So next Disney
Great.
episode is Princess and the Frog. Seen it?
I've never seen it. No, have you?
No, never seen it. Tangled, I think we've both seen. We both enjoy to an
I love
extent.
Tangled. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one
yeah.
of my favorites.
What need to poo?
I'm hoping they can salvage it because I'm not against the characters. I'm against the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the film.
And then Wreck-It Ralph, which is it's great. Yeah, it's
I love
fantastic.
Wreck-It Ralph.
It's kind of
It's
it's
fantastic.
we're nearing the end, buddy, because up to this point we reviewed 48 Disney films in what I think this will be the 13th episode, or yeah, 13th episode.
This is episode. Yeah, well, the one that we just did was episode 12.
Yeah,
So yeah, the
yeah,
the,
so
ne- the next will be 13. Yeah.
we've only got 10 more Disney films to go, and that's
Yeah.
us done. So and then of course this year we've got was it Raya and the Last Dragon, Raya and the Last Dragon, something like that. And then
Yeah.
there's one called
I
Encanto. So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to both of those. I think Encanto is the one with Drake Bell. I think.
Oh
So I'm looking forward to that.
yeah.
But yeah, Ryan the Last Dragon. It's coming up. It's coming up soon, March. I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And but yeah, thanks very much everyone for today. Appreciate it. Thanks very much, Callum, for your time. Appreciate you,
Thank
brother.
you.
And yeah, hope you guys are all safe and well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well, of course, during these troubling times. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Take care and bye bye.
Bye bye.